So Milan would return to the San Siro for the first time since that Supercoppa win in Saudi Arabia, and we as fans were expecting a mature, routine performance versus an 18th place Cagliari side. And Conceição went into this game fielding the best possible Milan lineup that he could have put out. And it's safe to say that versus Cagliari, these guys left us disappointed with loads of missed chances, most notably from Tammy Abraham. And I'm calling out players in this episode, guys. Tammy, who is still yet to convince me, having those two tip of the hats that I've mentioned in those previous games versus Inter and Juventus, today was a poor showing from him, not being clinical enough. And it's making us fans and the management question whether or not Tammy is the right guy to put in that attacking position. And someone that I was disappointed in as well was Yusuf Fofana. Something I've never seen him do before is when he would misplace a pass, he would throw his arms up and start moaning to the other players, while Cagliari on the other side were hitting us on the counterattack, scoring on the other side. And I do think that maybe Magnon should have been doing better on this one, so I'm going to give him a pass on this one, especially because of that one phenomenal save that he made earlier in this game. But something that I've been kind of concerned about in this kind of back line was that how absent Gabi has been in this team. Since Conceição's been appointed as manager, Gabi has been on the bench for all 3 games. And I know it's been just 3 games, but I think Gabi can offer something that this defense doesn't have. And maybe Fonseca cooked on this one onto why Tomori's been benched for all these games. And we saw how defensively stable Thiaw and Gabi were in that back line. But that's my kind of concern with the defense. But my main concern with the attack is how lifeless and toothless we looked in this match. And there weren't any clear-cut chances that we created in this game. And even when we did, we fluffed our lines and we failed to convert them. And this has been the story for Milan this whole season, and where we would get a big win and vibes were all good and great. And literally the next game we play Cagliari, they spoil the party for us. And this game feels like we dropped more points than what we actually did based off of the results that happened this weekend as well. Juventus tied in their derby versus Torino, Lazio tied, and Atalanta tied. 3 of those teams that are all fighting for this top 4 spot that we are as well, and we failed to get all 3 points. And it really sucks because we've been dropping points left and right like nothing all season. And there's really no answer to why. Because we play how we did in that second half versus Inter. We always, remember that game versus Real Madrid, and obviously that first derby versus Inter. And then you get this game like how we did versus Cagliari. Lifeless, toothless. And like Conceição said, there are still growing pains from this Fonseca, era, I guess you can say. And we all gave Fonseca time to try and work this out. And I'm more than willing to give Conceição time to adapt his style and philosophy into this squad, because the best thing that we can do right now is move on to the next game. And we have Como away. And the only really thing that we can look forward to in this game, and I think which is important, is to see if Milan are clearly improving under Conceição by being clinical up top and in the midfield by being more organized and sharp in decision making. You saw how many useless passes we were doing versus Cagliari, and we weren't being direct like how Conceição likes to be. And with that being said, I think there are some things that can possibly help us in that regard. So let's talk transfers. The rumors that have been circulating around Milan have been saying that we've been heavily linked with Marcus Rashford and most recently Kyle Walker. And I think there are some pros and cons to both. So let's dive into Rashford first. Rashford is at a pretty good age right now. He's 27. He's in that, prime age where you can still get the best out of him. And we know that there's a player in there. And with the sale of Okafor on that loan deal with the option to buy to Leipzig, the only strikers that we have in this team are Tammy, Morata, and Camarda. And with Camarda still being young to get consistent playing time, Tammy and Morata, we saw today versus Cagliari how lifeless and, useless they were up top, not being the guys that we need up top. And I think Rashford, in my opinion, could be a good solution to that problem up top right now. And I think Rashford is a good player, but I think my only concern is that if he goes through one of those rough patches, it can be kind of hard to get him back into some great form. but when he's on it, Rashford is a top quality player. And I think the only hurdle that we face as a team for this transfer is the amount that he would have to cut from his salary, which would be more than half of what he makes right now. But if everything goes to plan, then Marcus Rashford would be a Milan player. Now let's move on to the blue side of Manchester, Kyle Walker. And we all know that this right back spot has been a massive liability for us this season, always swapping from Emerson and Calabria, but Kyle Walker seems to be an option to be explored, and given his recent comments saying that he wants to experience something abroad, Milan have offered Kyle Walker a 2.5-year deal, and it seems to be closing in on a deal with Zlatan surprisingly being a key figure in negotiations. And Kyle Walker seems like a tantalizing player based off of what we've seen him do, but he is on that wrong side of 30, being 34 years old. But what's actually nice in Serie A, I feel like 34 is like being 28. And I think he would be a great option for us for Milan on the attacking front, while also adding that defensive stability that we need, as well as bringing that winning mentality he gained from Manchester City. And I think if it came down to the two, I'd much rather take Kyle Walker, because for me, how I see it is that Calabria isn't going to be here for much longer, and we've been complaining about how weak this right-sided position has been, and I'm more than confident Conceição can get the best out of this attack at some point. So I'd really like to see Kyle Walker in Milan if the offer is right. Bit of a short episode, guys, but I think that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and get involved in the comment section below. What do you guys think that this Milan team needs to do to kind of get the best out of each other? Do you think Conceição still deserves time? And guys, do you think that either one of Marcus Rashford or Kyle Walker would be the solution to get this Milan team back to where it needs to be? Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.